So he
Yeah.
does talk about not only businesses, like he ran the insurance business, he has Valuetainment now, but also the people that worked for him and how their characteristics and how they needed a plan in order to get the most out of what they wanted. Hey everyone, welcome to the Big Fitness Show, episode 48. And today we're going to find out just how much of an effed up business I run, because today we're going to talk about the Patrick David book. Can't even get the name right. See, I can't run a business, can't get the author's name right. Choose your enemies wisely, which my enemy appears to be me. But who's not my enemy, who's one of my closest, dearest friends, like a brother to me, is Big Mike Burns, the co-host of the Big Fitness Show, and the person that got me into reading again. First and foremost, thank you so much, Mike. Now I am fully into reading once again. I went over the hump of it dragging along, but now, man, I look forward to reading something every single day. So thank you very much.
Awesome. Hey, dude, you're welcome. It's awesome. I'm proud of you. That's great. I'm very, very proud of you because it's good to expose things and learn with the reading. And you've kind of like reinvigorated me a little bit with the reading too, because I would read things and just kind of halfway read it, and not pay super attention to it. But now it's reading and implementing. And this podcast, this Choose Your Enemies Wisely, I had to reread the book because I had read it a while back, but I read it and this time it was more intentional. So I was able to take more away from it. So I'm pumped to be able to talk about this. But before we talk about the book, I cannot go without addressing this real quick. It's been just about a year since you almost died. And I want to celebrate.
Since I abandoned the show and I no-showed for a few weeks.
Since you totally bailed on me and totally almost canceled the show. But I want to celebrate the fact that you have pulled through and recovery. And I want to ask you before we move on, how is recovery going? How are you feeling? I know you put out a post the other day about it, just kind of sharing some of your thoughts, but for the listeners, share with us how you're feeling, how's it going, and what it feels like to look back on it a year removed from the start of your whole mess.
Why are you trying to make me cry 2 minutes into the episode? It's very overwhelming in the most positive sense. And I think the most important part of my post, besides the fact, hopefully it inspires people to never give up. And there were times where I did give up, and that's where my wife, once again, and we did an episode about that. I would not be anywhere without my wife, including being alive. Her tenacity, her refusal to give up, because I would have just been like, oh, I can't find answers. I guess I'm just going to have to tough it out, which would have killed me. She kept finding and finding and finding, researching and making sure that even when we found the Mayo Clinic, the right place to be, got it diagnosed and got on treatment, she was up every hour or two to push antibiotics. She was doing my PICC line. She was essentially my live-in nurse when the home health nurse didn't show up to kind of make sure everything was not getting reinfected.
Sure.
I can't put it into words, except I just feel very, very blessed. I'm extremely grateful. And like I said about the post in the beginning of this, the most important part of this post is not me. It's the people that are still suffering. This is essentially, literally, I'm a walking miracle. There's people that have suffered the same kind of spinal infection and other types of infections that are still in wheelchairs, that still cannot walk, that still experience that pain that I experienced, which felt like forever, but a very brief amount of time compared to the pain that they're feeling. Those are the people that everybody who's listening and watching the show right now. It's not me, although I appreciate all the well wishes and the encouragement and the people talking about how my story has motivated them. Those are the people that I want you to focus on, pray for, send positive vibes, love and light, whatever you believe in. Those are the people that need that energy to lift themselves up and hopefully become walking miracles as well.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. That's cool. That's cool. Well, I'm grateful to have you around, and grateful that you've been able to share your story and help people through this journey. I know it's impacted a lot of people. I know you posted on Facebook, and I just, like, you tagged me in the post, and like the notifications were just blowing up because of the outpouring of support for you. And I know that I'm not the only one that's super grateful. So thanks for giving us an update. How is your back though? Like, give us kind of a quick update on your back. How are you feeling strength wise compared to where you were a few months ago, but then where you were a year ago in the recovery process? Are you back to 100% yet? Are you at 90%, 80%? Where are you at with your back?
Well, my spine isn't fused yet. So for those people thinking I was going to be in the Rumble, no, for a lot more reasons than just my spine. No, if you follow some of my other stuff. But man, I have to say, my back actually, in some weird way, feels better than before the infection, because we all have that thing as wrestlers where, and maybe it was because I re-implemented isometrics, a foundation in the road to recovery. So I started training properly.
Sure.
That my back pain, like even just I got that Speedy and Gym Monster, which, by the way, I can see why people love the tonal. That thing's incredible. That is my favorite piece of workout equipment.
Oh, wow.
It's amazing, dude, what I'm able to do with the different modes. Gonna have a full review coming up soon. But I did belt squats yesterday. I did actual legs belt squat outside of the squat max. And this company sent me a belt for the belt squat, which worked out great with the cables.
Yeah.
It felt great. I was doing lunges. I was doing that. I was doing deadlifts on back day with the cables, not free weights. So I'm still protecting my spine. So the hip hinging is coming back. I'm able to train. It's just, dude, it never escapes me. I don't think I think there's only been a handful of times, because I'm a big baby. There's a handful of times that I haven't cried or gotten emotional during a workout. And I'm talking about since April 13th.
Sure.
It just never escapes me, even though I've lost sight. We're going to talk about it with the book. I've lost sight of just how blessed I am in other ways. And I beat myself up still in the business realm with the physical and the fitness and the health and the wellness thing. It just never escapes me. The fact that I can get out of bed and that, and by the way, I still need the assistance of that railing to get out of bed. So for some strange reason, that kind of getting out of bed part, maybe it's mental, because I had so much trouble getting in bed for so many months that I still use the assistance of that bed rail that we put on, in between the box spring and the mattress.
Sure.
I don't know, man. It's just, man, it takes so much sometimes for people to finally gain perspective on their life and the world around them. And this had definitely given me that proper perspective. I can't put it into words. I mean, as much as I'm talking and rambling, I'm trying to find other words to describe it, man. It's just such a deep feeling within me that I'm alive and well. It's crazy.
That's great, man. That's great. Thanks for sharing that with us. I'm proud of you. I think everybody listening's proud of you for fighting and coming back and being stronger than ever. So that's cool. I mean, we're excited to continue on the journey with you. I know I did
get accused to be, hey, by the way, biggest compliment. I put up that picture, the before and the after, which the fitness people were so mad because I put the after picture in the before spot. And the before, that they didn't pay attention to the actual context, which I loved. Spoken like true, social media commenters. But, the biggest compliment I got was people thought they were like, well, obviously you're doing a cycle of TRT or you're on steroids, because nobody can come back that quick from that. And I'm like, dude, I'm lifting 12 pounds. I'm not even, you know what I mean? There's no feat of strength attached to this. But I took that as a compliment. I was not insulted by that at all.
Heck yeah, that's a great compliment. That's awesome. I mean, you did look great. I texted you, said you were jacked. So you did look great in the before and after photos. So I can see why people would say that. So
I got a little bit of a muffin sides right here on the love handles.
Whatever.
I need to work for.
Whatever.
Work on.
Whatever. Anyway, let's move on. I appreciate you sharing the update. Let's talk about this book, because we got a lot to talk about as this book is concerned. So, Choose Your Enemies Wisely is the name of the book. It's written by Patrick Bet David. It is the tagline is Business Planning for the Audacious Few. It is a great book. I read it a couple times. Stevie has read it, and I know that there's a lot here from a business perspective. For those of you listening that haven't read the book, I think if you're trying to trying to build a business, trying to build a brand, trying to do anything in the business realm, this book is fantastic as giving you like a game plan to follow, and giving you actual practical things to to act on, giving you action steps to follow. But I also think just from a daily life perspective, this book is good too in hitting goals. Not even if you don't want to start a business at all, fine, no big deal. Like from hitting your goals, I think this book is a really good mental approach to hitting your goals. I mean, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I think it has, the thing that people battle with in business or in life is emotion versus logic. And that's a major part of the first kind of like
Yeah,
section, or, first few chapters of the book, is how to channel your emotion and logic to kind of get to those goals. So he
yeah,
does talk about not only businesses, like he ran the insurance business, he has Valuetainment now, but also the people that worked for him and how their characteristics and how they needed a plan in order to get the most out of what they wanted. So even if you're looking at it, like I was looking at it, man, I'm looking at all the, talking about the fitness, the wrestling
mm,
analysis, what we're doing here, but also in the personal growth type of thing. I have been winging it for so long. I've been kind of flying
sure,
by the seat of my pants, and that's an easy thing to do, like to lack structure when you work for yourself. It's great to
mm,
have the freedom, but it's a double-edged sword where you can fall into an abyss. We
mm,
have great pre-production meetings, and just before this we were talking about a new medium that I was excited about. Like I was like, "Oh, I've always wanted to do this, blah blah blah." But then you said, "Well, but for your businesses and for your own energy, limited energy, or is that really going to fit with what you want as goals for all this other stuff?" And it really
yeah,
didn't fit. So that's
sure.
that's sort of the assessment that this does too. And there's so many things. So we're probably gonna have to do multiple parts. And I'm gonna have to read the book. I'm gonna have to read the book multiple times, because
Yeah,
we had said on last week's episode, I believe, that we're gonna do an episode just on the SWOT analysis part, which is
sure.
like like a
Yeah,
what, 1/50th of the information. So
sure.
we can do like the 12 building blocks, the one-page business plan, the SWOT analysis, the logic versus emotion. And for people who are saying, well, how does this affect my fitness journey? These are tools and these are parameters that you can use. A fitness, a business plan is no different than a fitness plan, than a workout plan, than a diet plan. You have to, I believe this is, man, this was like a blueprint, as much of a blueprint for life as the
Mm,
Warrior Poet book to me. How do you
yeah.
feel about that?
Dude, yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you completely, because the structure that's here is can be applied to everything, and there we can go through it chapter by chapter if we want,
I
like we
want to
did
say
with
one more
Warrior Poet.
thing too.
Yeah,
The timing of this book couldn't have been any better, because you started coaching me on the structure of the videos. Now every Wednesday, 2 p.m. Eastern time, for the wrestling analysis premiere. Just
sure,
that alone, and filling in the week with the clips and the shorts, cleared up my schedule to no
sure.
end. So when
Yeah.
you were coaching me and the book was being read, it was like,
Mm,
so thank you. There was
yeah.
serendipity when it came to
Yeah.
that this book here, by the way, we're spoiled. 2 books in, both super easy reads. I don't know when we're going to hit the wall, but I hope we find another book that's just as easy to read as these first two, because it was an
Yeah.
absolute pleasure to read these books.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree with you. And I have an idea for the next book, that I'll talk to you when we get done recording, talk to you about when we get done recording, so we can decide together on it. But, and it's an easy read too. But like, yeah, I think timing wise, I think, uh, Patrick Bet David was strategic in his releasing of this book, because it was released in early December, I think. And it's very much so a how to crush your goals for the year type of book. Like, it can be read at any time, but it's definitely a great book to read at the beginning of a year when you're in that mindset of setting your New Year's resolutions, planning out your business goals, whatever it is. So timing wise, I think it's good for anybody to read right now to set you up for success for the rest of the year and help you get going. But if you're listening to this at any time, it would be a good book to help you focus in and plan your goals and things like that. And that was one of the things for me that was just like setting your goals, but then having the strategic plan on how to get there. And I've read some other books that were very similar to that, but the biggest thing for me, and I want to ask you too, what the big takeaway for you with this was, besides the fact that your businesses are a little bit of a mess. The big takeaway, my big takeaway was, it's okay to have enemies and view them as a motivating factor. And, like, I've tried not to have enemies and tried not to focus on the enemy, but shifting that focus of, okay, this person is my enemy because of this reason, and using that as the motivating factor. And that to me was like, it reframed it in my mind of kind of just like, I guess, some motivation to really have massive success, and being okay with picking the right enemy to drive the motivation. And it kind of tied back into your why a little bit as far as choosing the enemy. And so, like, making sure that you have a big enough enemy for me was like, okay, well, if I'm small potatoes, my enemy is beating the guy down the street in a workout. Okay, well, that's a cool enemy for the moment, but is that really going to get me where I want to go? I need to have an enemy big enough to actually get me to the goals that I want, and being okay choosing that enemy to really be the driving force. So that, to me, that was the big takeaway. It's a lot of time in the past, my enemies, to use that word, is my enemies have been too small. They haven't been big enough to really drive me to get to that level that I want to get to.
Yeah.
So
and that's where I'll show you'll see comes from. So I'm good at creating my own enemies. No, I have to. I need motivation. That's kind of like post wrestling was easy to create enemies because there was plenty of evil people in the business to call your enemy. And there was also the number one enemy, whether it's wrestling or this or anything, has always been myself. And it sounds so cliche to say that. But as I'm looking through this, the number one enemy to me is always myself. Now, I overcome that enemy a lot and follow through and take action, but I probably drag my feet a little bit, and I probably, drain a bit of energy, like take it away from myself before I even take the action. My biggest thing when I'm looking at this was, and I don't know how to word this totally correctly, I'll try to do it a couple different ways. I need to rewire my thinking. I need to rewire my self-assessment. I need to rewire how I do it, because I found myself on each and every question I thought I knew the answer of, freezing and going, how do I answer this? What seemed like even just like, what are your goals for your business?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I do have a mission statement, but how true is that vision? The mission statement, the vision. How true is that? And how much does that speak to the other questions it was followed up with? Like, where does it fill the hole in the field? What does it do? What question does it answer for the people, the other businesses that don't have an answer? All these different things. And I found myself like, well, that's not the right vision. What do I really want? Then it's like, where do you see yourself 5 years from now? I'm skipping around questions, but I'm like, I don't know. And I used to have that answer in wrestling. Okay, cool. I just started. Now I want to be in, I'm in ECW. I want to either be WCW, WWE, or WWF at the time. If I get the WCW, I'll go to WWF after that. If I go to WWF, I'll stay as long as I can and then maybe go back to ECW. There was a path. But with this, the exciting part is it's wide open for you and I and people like us. Solo, I can't even pronounce it. We're entrepreneurs, but we're solo. So, damn, why do you make these friggin' words up? So, They just do it on purpose.
Solopreneur.
Solopreneur.
I love you, dude.
Sounds like a French meal that's overpriced. So
Oh shoot!
Philly
Sorry.
accent fails me again.
That's great.
So
Anyway, back on track.
well, you know what? I guess my vision isn't winning a spelling bee or a pronunciation bee anytime soon. So that's been eliminated. But I'm looking at it and I'm like, I never found myself, not in a bad way, I never found myself stuck on each and every question or each and every SWOT analysis or each and every part of even the 1-page business plan at the end of the book.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm okay. What do I write? Yeah. I know it's here, but what do I write? It makes you think, but it also can drive you crazy, which also lends back to what I said. My business must be a mess because I can't do the elevator pitch. I can't tell people what I'm about. So it's gotcha. So weird to go from, just to wrap it up, to go from wrestling where I can explain my wrestling character in one sentence. I can explain what my it is of the character in one sentence. Right. I can tell you why I'm a babyface or a heel in one sentence.
Yeah.
It just confuses me.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and I think there's definitely a correlation there. You know, I feel like wrestling, as a wrestler, just to kind of touch on that real quick, wrestling teaches you business, in my opinion. You just don't realize that wrestling is teaching you business because you are learning how to present yourself. You are learning how to sell yourself. You are learning how to give the people what they want. You are learning how to tell stories. You are learning how to cast vision. You're learning how to do all of these things by being a professional wrestler. And, you know, I've talked to friends of mine who they don't, you know, like they've focused their whole life, rightfully or wrongfully, on being independent professional wrestlers, trying to live the dream, trying to get to become, trying to get signed, whatever. But then the time comes, they got to get a job and they're like, well, I don't have any skills. I've been a wrestler my whole life. What do I do? And I'm like, well, here, bro, like you have all of the skills, every skill that you need to be a successful business person, be a successful entrepreneur. If you were worth anything in the ring, unless you were the drizzling, I mean, even if you didn't know how to wrestle, you still learned how to get in a ring, how to present yourself. Even if you did a poor job, you're still learning how to do it. And all of the skills can be taught during wrestling. It's just, you don't apply it. And so like, you don't think all of my skills here apply in everything that I do in my business career. And so now it's just a matter of sitting down and thinking through it like you would your wrestling character, and thinking through it like, okay, my wrestling character would do this in this situation. Okay, well, what would my business do in this situation if I'm trying to get the end goal? The goal of the match, you know, I don't know, I've never, like the last match we put together was a long time ago, but in my matches, what's the story we're telling here? What's the goal of the match? What's the point we want to get across? Then we work back. So what would my character do to get to that end goal? Well, in business, if my end goal is to make $1 million this year, then how do I work backwards to get to that $1 million? So it's everything works together. And it's just amazing how much professional wrestling and being a professional wrestler correlates to business. But if you don't put 2 and 2 together, just because you just don't even think to like, oh yeah, all that makes sense, it just doesn't resonate. And so sometimes a book like this is really good, and it helps make that a little more aware. And I love some of the things that you said there of like, you could tell me your wrestling character in a minute or less. I mean, that's literally just the elevator pitch and being able to understand that. But you've thought through it.
That's a promo. That's a wrestling promo.
Yeah.
Your elevator pitch. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. You know, and like the end of the book, and we're kind of jumping around on the book. The end of the book talks about having your slide deck, having it all put together. Your slide deck is your body of work. It's your highlight package before the match. You know, like there's all these things that just come in and they all correlate to what we're talking about here. So anyway, sorry to get off on that tangent for those of you who are not wrestling fans, which I don't know how many people listen to this that aren't wrestling fans, but as far as the book is concerned, let's go through it kind of chapter by chapter real quick and just kind of give our quick thoughts. So the beginning of the book just gives you a quick overview, gives you kind of Patrick Bet-David's backstory, stuff like that, talks about some of the things there, talks about looking backwards, and then talking about the audacious few. Because if you really want to be successful in business, you got to be a little bit arrogant and a little bit audacious to get to your goals. But the first part, it's broken into three parts: part 1, 2, and 3. Part 2, and let's just jump to that, starts to break down the 12 blocks of your business plan, because this is where you start to think through all the different avenues. And the first piece is your enemy and competition. And for me, this is figuring out who's going to drive you, who's your enemy. He uses the example of Tom Brady and winning 6 Super Bowls and going to win the 7th, and choosing Bill Belichick as his enemy in the 7th, right? Like he's got to win one more. Or choosing
before
Michael
that,
Jordan.
he was drafted so low, and like 6 quarterbacks ahead of him, they were all the enemy and the people. He had a lot to prove.
Yeah, exactly. And so that is what drove him. And so then talking about a worthy enemy and worthy competition. And for me, that was like worthy enemy, worthy competition. Like I can want to crush somebody because they were a turd to me, but are they worthy of that? And are they actually going to propel me to my goals? And am I focusing my energy and effort onto crushing this person that's not worth it? And is that distracting me? So that was my big takeaway from that first building block section.
Yeah, I'm looking at this right here. On the one side of emotion, it's enemy, will, mission, dreams, culture, vision. Up to the top is the audacious few in the pyramid. On the right side for logic, it's competition, skill, plan, systems. That's important. Plan and systems, of course.
Yeah.
Team, capital, and then the audacious. So that's where I think the thing of this pyramid, this building block pyramid, the two alternating things, the opposing things there that I think everybody battles with. Because you're talking about culture, team, all that stuff. You can say, well, I'm a solo, whatever you call it. There you go.
Yeah.
All right. Your dreams and your mission, you get those and you're like, okay, I got it. You think you got it. Yeah. I had a mission statement with Stevie Richards Fitness or Wrestling Analysis. And my dream was the concept. I'm really great with concepts. What I'm not so great with is the planning and then the implementation of the systems, because that's the boring stuff. That's the nuts and bolts. But also, if you front load the systems and the plan, you're almost going to, in a way, passively make income, because now you're set up within the structure that I'm so sorely lacking. So I think, the will and the skill can be taught and be fostered and all that stuff, and you can dig down deep and get those things. But I think those two levels of the building blocks are the hardest: dreams and missions on the emotion side, and then systems and planning on the logic side. What do you think about that?
I think the systems is and planning is a struggle for a lot of people. I mean, I really think the dreams, I think for me, dreams are no problem. Like I come up with dreams all day. I got dreams. I got all kinds of dreams and ideas, and I'm an idea guy. And it's the systems and the implementation of those that has been the biggest struggle for me. And the same with you, like, cause it is hard to figure out what it is that you need to do. And if you don't take the time to sit down and intentionally work through it, it's a big struggle. And I think one of the things that the book talks about is they quote another book called Atomic Habits, where we don't rise to the level of our dreams, we fall to the level of our systems, or something like that. It's how it goes. And you don't realize how important having that system in place can be to the structure of achieving your goals. So yeah, the building blocks for me, the systems and planning are the two where I struggle the most. I've gotten a lot better at it over the years through learning the hard way, but the systems, the planning, and then executing on those are the biggest hurdles for me, for sure.
I think if you, I agree with that as well. One of the things, and it's later in the book, not in this chapter, but I think he alluded to it a little bit during the book, is I'm notoriously frugal and cheap with a lot of stuff. And it's great personally. It's great for, living below your means and everything. But the systems, the first thing I think of when it comes to planning and systems is the fact that I have no structure. I don't have much structure, better than I was a month ago, thanks to you. Mike's going to be a business coach, by the way. I keep pushing him to do it. Um, YouTube, a little bit, systems and planning now. I'm starting to get a system, starting to get a schedule, starting to plan out stuff, starting to get everything I need, getting ahead of it. The social media aspect,
Mm,
I still look at some of these things like Hootsuite, like Vista Social, like Socialmonial, these apps that schedule everything, and they have all sorts of different things where you can plan out a week or a month or whatever ahead. I really need to invest money in that system because the
mm,
time I'm spending to say, oh, should I post today? Oh, I feel like posting. I feel like doing this. Feel like out of everything. I got to get it out of my vocabulary. And I
yeah.
got to say, today is Thursday. This is the day after the long form video for the YouTube, where I
Hmm.
create the shorts and the clips leading up to next Wednesday's video. I need
Yeah.
to tailor that structure to the social media aspect of the fitness and the wrestling business. And the
Mm,
systems and the planning requires sometimes spending money as a
yeah.
businessman.
Yeah. Yep. That's true. That's very true.
Not
And
for the
yeah.
Adobe subscription. I'd never pay for that. Um,
Yeah. Only losers pay for that one.
no, you know, only people with a lot of patience for crashes. Um,
Yeah, sure. Well, another piece of this, the chapters of the 12 building blocks, one piece that stood out was the next one is the will and skill. The will, he uses an example of the word want and will, and he talks about how they're both 4-letter words. They both, it's just a matter of changing a couple letters to say a expression that you want to do something or you will do something, right? Like I want to be a YouTuber. I will be a YouTuber. I want to have a massively successful business, or I will have a massively successful business. And just switching that, the way you say it, is a huge thing. Will means you're going to do it. I want to, it gives you an out, right? And I want to do things. I
Worse than that
want
is
to,
I'd like or love to is the even
right,
worse than one.
right,
Because you
right.
have a safety net with that word.
Right. Yeah. And it was a simple thing. And when I read that part of the book, it was just like, oh yeah, I say I want to do things a lot. I want to do these things all the time. Like I say this, but I don't actually do them. And so I think it was being more careful with choosing your words and how you say things. And what I really took from that is don't say it if you're not going to do it. Like, well, don't say you want to do it if you're not actually going to do it. So changing the phrasing there was big for me, and that really was something that I was just like, okay, yeah, I need to be more careful about how I say what I'm going to do.
Yeah. Yeah. And you got to be careful. We talked about on a previous episode that sometimes you don't want to tell too many people about that because then you set yourself up subconsciously to be talked out of it a lot of times. And
Right.
if you really believe you will do it, that kind of gives you the out as well. The other thing I really loved about this chapter, page 47, is that cogwheel with the eight
Yeah.
things in it.
Yep.
That to me, like we're February 1st at the time of this recording, but man, look back at that. Yeah, I got to look back at the year because the year for the fitness business, and I can blame that there's no longer lockdowns and all that stuff from previous years, but affiliate sales were way down, views were way down, subscribers slowed down. A lot of stuff happened in the past year on the fitness thing that I put a great deal of my time and energy into. So I have to look back and see what was missing. And then, of course, the most important thing, I think right now, being in that choose your enemy uh, category. Who am I trying to compete with in this? So I think
Yeah.
in February 1st, everybody should do that 1 and 2 on the cogwheel and then move forward how you have to from that point.
Yeah, yeah, the cogwheel is definitely great. And it took me a second to find a page. You said 47 on the
Yeah,
ebook.
47 on the ebook.
On the physical book, it's page 32. But yeah, that definitely kind of gives you a clear visual on what you should be planning and how you should plan the whole process. It's definitely great. Definitely great.
Like I said, I didn't even think about this, Mike. Like I've read through and I was like, oh, that's cool, that's cool. But there's so much information now. You can take one of these pages, screenshot it on your iPad, or, do whatever you want with it. But you can look at this one page and this can be your action plan
Mm,
for the whole year. There's so
yeah.
much in there. It's almost information overload in a good way when you look at it. There's so many just Easter eggs. Like, I got to
Yeah.
go back. Oh man, I missed that part. I'm weak here.
Yeah.
We're gonna repeat that. But that's why I think this deserves, man, maybe more than one episode, or even dedicated to each element, like the SWOT analysis or the 12 building blocks. It's crazy how good it is. I wasn't
Yeah. I mean,
expecting this book to be this good. He
really?
he can kind of come off sometimes as a salesman. And I
Yeah.
was like, is this going to be another bullshit sales, like cliche type thing? Man, this guy knocked it out of the park. He really did.
Yeah. 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 It really was a good book. And I'll tell you, upon second and third readings, it definitely you get more from it, because the first time I listened to it on audio, second time I listened to it on audio, and then this third time I read it and listened on audio at the same time, which is how if a book really either comes with high praise, or the first time I listen to it on audio, I'll buy the second book. I'll buy the physical book so that I can read it and listen to it at the same time, because I feel like I just retain the information so much more and I process it better because I'm visually seeing it and I'm listening to it at the same time. But on the third reading, I did pull out a lot more of the bits and pieces on things, and it did kind of help give a little more direction, a little more clear planning, because the planning piece of this is important, and then the execution, and knowing what parts of it you need to hit too, and then narrowing in your focus. And so, like, to me, on the will and the skill piece of it in the chapter, like saying that I will do something, but then also up leveling your skills so that you can do that, right? Like, the things that I what the skill piece of this talked about for me was, I have all the skills already. Like, not to sound arrogant or conceited, but to get where I want to go, I have a vast majority of the skills that I need. Yes, I need to acquire more and I need to do more and I constantly need to grow and learn and stuff. But there's this MVP in business, minimum viable product, right? Like, there's the minimum that you have to get where you want to go. And so for me, I have the minimum skills required to achieve the things that I want to achieve right now, right? But when I get to those, I'm going to have to up level my skills and all that kind of stuff. And so through reading that chapter, it was like, oh, yes, I need to continue to grow, but stop the growth in the skills, because you have what you have. Don't worry about these other skills of whatever else when you don't need those yet to get where you want to go. And so that was another little thing that I didn't pick up on the first time I read the book.
I think we really need to say this is not just a book, but this is a handbook. Because you say
Yeah.
it's a book, you're going to read it and then put it down and forget about it. But it has a handbook, it's a reference to keep
Yeah.
going back to. And that's why I feel like the Warrior Poet book was that way, but this is even more so directly, related to business stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. I would agree with you. And again, too, like, it's not just business. Like, the will do things. I will work out today. I want to work out today. Like, it's not just business book. Every piece of this, you can interchange business life, business fitness, whatever it is you're chasing, your goals. It doesn't have to just be this, but it's getting a plan. It's being intentional about it. And that's what I really loved about it. When I was finishing up rereading the book, I was thinking at the end of it, because at the end, he starts talking about getting capital and building a team and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, well, how is this relevant to someone not building a business? And in my opinion is, teaches you in the book what you need to do to get the capital, and how you need to pitch that, and how you need to come up with what you need to say, and how you need to present it and all this kind of stuff. But capital can be money for your business, which is great. But capital can be support from your spouse too. And so, learning how to get the capital in your life, no matter what it is you're doing, you're just learning how to get buy-in from the people around you, and you're learning how to get support. And so, if you learn how to present, if you, for example, the capital, he talks about elevator pitch, and we talked about it already. You could sell me your wrestling character in a minute. No problem. Can you sell me on your business in a minute? Maybe not. if you're talking to your wife and you want to start a new thing, if you take 10 hours to tell her about it, she's going to check out and not want to listen anymore because it's boring, right? But if you can sell her on it in a minute and get her buy-in in a minute, it's going to be a lot more likely that she's going to get excited about it with you. She's going to support you in it because you know very clearly what it is that you want to do. And I think that's the thing that is so important about learning about how to get capital and build a team and things like that, that maybe you don't instantly think are relevant to you because you're not building a business. But if it's just life, you got to get the buy-in from people around you and how to get capital and how to build a team of support. You're on my team, I'm on your team. And so we know how to work with each other and how to call you out when you need to be called out, or support you and give you kudos when you deserve kudos, and same for me. And so it's just, this book is kind of a specific handbook for business, but can also be translated into every single area of your life, in my opinion.
I agree with I totally agree with that. And it's also, we don't want to use the word one, but when you want something, you need to know a process. Say you're a YouTuber and you want to, get a review product, or you want to start an affiliate thing, or you were talking about reaching out to sponsors and advertisers and stuff like that. You have to implement the same thing as he does for getting investors and capital and all. You have to convince them. You have to talk about it. And that was the thing too. Sometimes, like, I got to reword my email a little bit when I send it out to companies that I want to work with. I really do feel like he said he led with emotion when he was trying to pitch something to his team or the company,
Yeah.
or say, this is what we're going to do. He was saying it's very much like the Steve Jobs type of Apple keynote. He elicits the emotion and then he tells you how he's going to do it. So
Right.
it's the why first, I guess, and then the how after that. So that's what I was like, okay, well, that gives me, like, if I'm going to hook somebody with an email or try to get somebody's attention, they get a million media inquiries a day. I'll say, this is who I am and this is my story. This is my story. And now, instead of just saying, hey, I'm Steve Richards, I own this website, I have a channel, it's all like, it looks like AI wrote it. But if I able to give the story about why I am who I am, and why I want to start working with these people, I think that's a good way to go. So I learned from that. Even though at the beginning I was like you. It's like, it was almost going to be that thing like, I'm kind of done the book now because I'm not doing, but I said, let me just go through here. And I was like, wait a minute, I can apply that to this. I can apply it to that. Okay, I got it. So don't skip. Don't, even though it says you're not going to a venture capitalist or an angel investor, but you and I might be in a year with what we have, planned.
Sure.
Don't sell yourself short on not reading that final section of the book.
Yeah, no, and I think you just touched on something there with the emotion piece of this. And he, in the book, he talks about emotion and logic, and a lot of times people will either be all emotion or all logic. And you have the very analytical person that leads with logical, like, here's the results, here's what's going to get it done. And then he uses the example of the book of two people, that one, he calls them Ernie and Larry, because emotion and logic, right? And so, like, Ernie's all full of emotion. He wants to go crush his goals, but has no plan whatsoever. Where Larry has no emotion at all, but has the great plan. And so, which one's going to be more successful? You can make arguments for both of them, but he uses it as a way to illustrate that you need both. You need to have the emotion and the logic to back it up if you really want to be successful. And this book is also written from a sense of being a leader of a team and inspiring vision in your people and getting people bought in and stuff like that. And so, you can logically explain to somebody all this kind of stuff, but are they really going to get behind it if they don't have the emotion piece tied to it as well? So I think that's huge when it comes to anything that you're trying to do. Find the emotion and the logic behind it, because if you do, you can have the why and the drive, but if you don't have the way to get there, it's super important. And one of the things that I really liked about this book is at the end of every chapter, there's a section called Your Blocks, and it basically gives you action steps for what to do for each of the 12 building blocks. So, like, the end of the will and skill, it gives you actions to do, actions to go attack that.
I'm convinced he read Warrior Poet book, who also gives you action items at the end of each chapter. I have no doubt that he read that book.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's good. You know, the action steps are great. But once again, when I look at these for very good reason, it puts me in a point where I'm stuck.
Mm,
And which means I have to find those answers. Doesn't
yeah.
mean I don't know the answer, so I'm lost. It means I'm lost, so I need to go find the answer. So I'm very, very motivated by the holes that this identifies in myself, my business, my vision, all that stuff. So it was great.
Yeah.
If you get frustrated with this book and you feel like you're missing everything that he's telling you to do, that's a good thing. That's the beginning of actually now starting to run your business correctly.
Right. Right. Well, and I think too, the way the book is laid out, I mean, and we showed it a little earlier, the pyramid of what he has of the 12 building blocks. It's stacked the way it's stacked because you've got to build a foundation. And I know that's something we've talked about a million times on this podcast is we've talked about foundation, and getting a foundation in your business, getting a foundation for your goals is huge. And this book can be a good place to start when getting your foundation for tackling your business or tackling your goals, because it starts with the motivation, then the will and the skill, then the mission and the plan. Because yes, you got to have the identify the enemy and the competition that you're going after and what's going to get in your way. And it's all stuff we've talked about. But if you don't have a mission and a plan to get there, are you actually going to do it? Right. But then you got to have what your goal is going to be, and then the systems on top of that. And it all stacks and leads to the end of like, okay, now I got to get buy-in of other people. And it starts with as a solopreneur, and then starts to build a team and starts to continue to grow from there. And so it's really just reading the book, implementing the steps at the end of every chapter. I know with the mission and planning chapter, there's literal questions at the end of how to figure out what your mission is. How will you recruit for your mission? What questions must you ask to find the fire inside of you? And so asking that is what's my mission? Asking yourself the question, what cause are you fighting for? What injustices are you correcting? What crusade are you leading? And it's like, it makes you think about like, what do you do? Why are you doing this? And at the end of every chapter, it breaks that down for you. And then when it comes to the dreams and systems chapter, it really starts to break down the two different things of your dreams are cool, but without systems, are you actually going to get there? So it's really, I really, really just encourage everyone to check out this book and read through the whole thing, answer the questions at the end. I haven't actually gone through and written down all the questions at the end, but when I read, I answered as many of them as I could. And I would encourage everyone to go back and just read the book and go through and answer all the questions at the end of it, because it was just really, really valuable stuff.
It's funny because I know people within the corporate world and people that my wife has worked for in the past who have read a million different business books with every cliche and catchphrase and overcomplicated type of application of their management skills and everything. And they told me about the books they read and all that stuff. And that's why I had the predisposition or the impression this would be the same. This would be the book that I would read if I was a manager in a company or if I was managing a team or doing anything like that. And I'd make everybody read this book because it really is a very simplistic yet super deep approach to how you want to do anything.
Mm-hmm.
And I think everybody else overcomplicates it. Now, he simplified it, which still stumped me to no level, but at the same time, it's a simple enough thing to grasp, to identify, where I think a lot of other books I think they like to hear themselves type or read or talk or whatever.
Sure.
I really do. I think they're
Yeah.
just showing how smart they are about business and not trying to pass the actual knowledge along.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I don't know if I could say any more good things about the book. I mean, there's just a bunch of little nuggets that I'm sure I'm not doing enough justice to the quality of the book and pulling out all the little nuggets here. But I mean, I guess my final thought on it is read this book at least 2 times. And I would encourage everyone to get the audio and get the physical book so that you can actually read through it and take a look at every area of the 12 building blocks, and then do the business plan. Write out a business plan. I don't think I can understate how important it is to have an end goal in mind, but not just focus on the end goal, focus on the steps to get you there. And this helps figure that out for you. It helps dial that in and gives you a clear path. And so get the book, whether it's for your business or just making changes in your life. This will be a beneficial, helpful book for you.
I can't say any more about that. I feel like reading the book is great. I have it on the iPad here. Reading the whole book is great, but after you're done reading the book and you got to read it a couple of times, that's great. But I would still use it as a handbook. I bookmark certain things like this one-page business plan, the SWOT analysis, the other stuff where I can take my pen and just kind of write on there and try to figure it out. And if I got to just kind of erase it and start over again or print it out a few times, I feel like there's a way to kind of, if I'm stuck with something, grab the book, look at it and say, okay, what am I currently identifying as the problem? Can I identify it? And how can I, that's probably the way I would work after it, instead of trying to recall a certain part of the book and apply it there. I would just go right to the book in the situation and see how I can push past it. Cause it's going to be pretty rough for me. I'll be honest with you. Looking back on the year will be easy enough, but then trying to switch it and trying to figure out small, medium, long range goals, changing want to will, stuff like that, even identifying the enemy. It's just like we're in such a wide open space right now with our businesses, which is a great thing because the possibilities are endless, but also the confusion is endless. That's just the way I look at it. And it's not a half glass empty type thing. I am desperate now, Mike. I'm absolutely desperate to fix the problems, to right the wrongs, to steady the ship and put that rudder in the right direction. Is that enough metaphors?
Yeah, that's great.
I really am, dude. I've never been so happy and relieved in a way to have the clarity that it is messed up. So I'm telling everybody out there, if it's messed up and you have the inkling or the impression that I don't know what I'm doing right now. And there's no shame in that. I've been in business for how many years, and I'm looking and saying, okay, flying by the seat of my pants I've done pretty good, but God, man, it's wearing me the hell out. I gotta have structure. I gotta get this thing under control. And it made me.
So is that what you think is so messed up about your business? Is there just no structure to it?
I do. Maybe I think in a way that I might be leaving stuff on the table if I identify that one enemy, if I identify one goal. If I say this, I might be picking the wrong goal, picking the wrong enemy. Maybe there's something else. And maybe subconsciously, I'm afraid, and I'm going to play it a little safer and pick an enemy and a goal that's much more attainable and beatable, like you said.
Yeah.
I don't know. It really does require being really, really deeply assessed, self-assessed, and you have to just sit there and almost meditate and inflect and reflect to see what's going on. And I haven't done that yet.
Got it. Cool.
Yeah, dude, I'm lost, man. I'm not gonna lie to anybody. I put my best effort, as you do, each and every day. And each and every day there's different wild cards and parameters and obstacles, as with any business. But I don't have the plan and I don't have the systems in place. And I feel like once I get those, I think those goals and those other things can be more fluid within the walls of the system and the plan.
Sure.
But yeah, dude, I don't know where my business is going. I don't know where I want to take it. I would love to make more money. I would love to get better numbers and views and subscribers and collaborations and affiliates. And maybe that's it. Maybe I just said it and spoke it.
Yeah.
But it needs to be narrowed down into some kind of funnel and direction.
Love it. No, it's good. I kind of knew the answer to what you were going to say, but I wanted you to say it for the listeners that just to give some clarity, because you've referenced, you've realized that your business is out of whack or screwed up or whatever. You don't know. And so it's good to hear people that even someone that is as successful as you are still can have some struggle. And the same thing, like I'm not saying I'm not in the same boat. Like mine's screwed up too. And this book definitely helped me see a bunch of holes that are in my business and what I'm trying to do as well. And, we're both guilty of spreading ourselves too thin and not focusing in. And I think this book and following the path that we have with this book will help us both do more and be more successful than we've ever been because of, just some of the structures and putting some of that structure in place. So I think that's good.
If I can say this just to follow up on that, because this is what's going to happen when you are in the situation we are in. Mm-hmm. Your work-life balance is going to be completely screwed up. Because without the systems in place, that's probably the number one thing. The systems, meaning the schedule, meaning the roadmap or anything else. When I'm not sitting here, when I'm not in the garage gym, when I'm not at the smart board, when I'm not at editing, I'm thinking about all these things because I don't know what's next. So I'm not truly 100% present with my wife, with my family, because I'm always thinking, you can't shut it off to an extent, but at least if the system's in place, this Saturday is my family day, is my wife, because I know that it's not the day for shorts, clips, long form videos, social media. That's planned out for the month. I'm done. These are the things, the systems in place will help you enjoy life much more outside of your business, your job, or whatever you're doing.
Right. No, that's great, dude. That's great. Yeah. I don't know what else to say about the book. I just say, go read it. Go read it. Choose your enemies wisely. This is it right here. Everybody who hasn't picked it up yet. We will put a link in the description so you can go find it on Amazon to check it out. Yeah.
Sweat on the iPad. Hey, by the way, I'm going to speak this into existence. Patrick Bet-David has valuetainment. It needs personalities.
Oh.
Just plant a seed.
And he's in Florida.
Well, it's the internet. You can live anywhere. So
yeah, I know. But it's not far from you.
What's the temperature there? Could be a change of pace for you, a change of weather.
Yeah. No, it's actually nice today. It's going to get up to it's at 41 right now. So that's feels like shorts and tank top weather to me.
But you never know, man. You never know. Because that's a good culture to be a part of. But that's just something for off camera for us to talk about.
Yeah.
But I'll let you take us out. Once again, I hope you guys read the book. We will let you know next week what the book for next month, meaning the end of February to beginning of March, leap year, by the way. So got a few less days to read the book. We will let you know next week. If you have any suggestions, by the way, before Mike takes us out, you can always leave a comment. You can leave a voicemail through Spotify. You can email us, thebigfitnessshow@gmail.com. We want the interaction. We love the interaction. We want to hear from you. This is not our show. This is your show.
Amen to that, brother. All right. Well, hey, that's it for this week's episode of the Big Fitness Show. If you got some value from this, share it with somebody who else man, I totally botched that. Holy smokes. If you got some value from this, share it with somebody who you think can get some value from it as well. We appreciate you. And for myself and for Big Stevie Cool, this is it. We'll see you in the next episode. Thanks.
Your Illinois accent failed you.
Brutal.